Hello, I'm Lisa, I'm a Pilates instructor and this is Emma, she's going to help me out today. The purpose of this video is that I am a bit pregnant and going on maternity leave, so I thought I'd do a nice little video for my lovely class attendees so that they can do it at home and then they don't have to come back. No, that's not the reason, I want you all to come back to me. So basically I'm going to start with some alignment. Now everybody who attends my classes would have gone through this and know everything, but if you happen upon this video and you're a beginner and you want to know a bit more about Pilates, then I'm going to go through with Emma how to stand correctly, how to breathe correctly, and how and where your core muscles are and how to activate them. So let's get cracking, shall we? I've just noticed I've got some dirt on my camera. So we're going to start with the alignment. So you need to stand with your feet and knees hip distance apart. And then I need you to imagine that you've got a piece of string tied to the top of your head, which is pulling you all the way up to the ceiling. So really lengthening through the spine, and then you're going to retract your shoulders and draw them back and down. So at the back, your shoulders are in a soft V position, as if you're trying to slot them into your back pockets, making sure that your chest has now not flared. And with your knees, never stand with your knees locked. They always need to be slightly soft, which Emma is now going to do. So from the front you can see Emma standing in a nice tall position with everything in alignment. So her shoulders, hips, knees and ankles are all in a parallel line. Now if I spin Emma around to the side, she's now going to level herself up again. So this is how your shoulders are going to be. They're back and down, so you can see the top part of her back is nice and level. And then she's nice and long and her head is resting backwards on a headrest with her chin slightly retracted. That's lovely, Emma. Very good, well done. So now I'm going to talk about Emma's pelvis. So with your pelvis, it needs to be in what we call a neutral position. If you have a look at the spine, you've got three curves in your spine. One here, and one here. So you don't want to flatten your lower back, you want to remain with that natural curve there. And the way we do this is to talk about the pelvis being like a bucket. So your many of you will be familiar with this word, especially if you've had children. I'm on my second now, so I know all about buckets. So anyway, so your pelvis is a bucket, and if we ain't got time to start getting serious. It's fine. Pelvic bucket. So now, what I'm going to get Emma to do first of all is to tilt her pelvis all the way forward, so her back is fully arched. And now if you see, if Emma's pelvis was indeed a bucket, it's now tilted forwards and all of the water is going to be falling out of the front of the bucket. And now we're going to tilt the pelvis fully backwards, so tucking that tailbone under, and now you can see her back has flattened and all of the water is going to be coming out of the back of the bucket. We don't want water coming out of the bucket, we want it nice and stable. So in between those two extremes is going to be where your pelvis is neutral. Now I always say this is going to be different for everybody, but the most important thing is that you find it comfortable and you've always got those three curves in your spine. So you don't want to be tucking under and walking along like this, because that's not good. So still with the knees soft, now we can just make sure that we go from the top to the bottom. So lengthening with your head tied to a piece of string, chin retracted, back on a headrest, shoulders back and down, pelvis neutral, knees soft, and ankles and feet hip distance apart. So once you've done that correctly, we can turn around now. We're going to start with the breathing. So in Pilates we do lateral thoracic breathing, which is all about breathing from the rib cage. So as we breathe in through the nose, the rib cage widens out to the side and out to the back. And as you breathe out through your mouth, the rib cage deflates again. So we're not doing abdominal breathing today, we're breathing from the ribs. So if you just place your hands on your rib cage here, when you breathe in, your fingers should slightly part, and then when you breathe out, they should come back together. When I breathe in, nothing happens, there's no room. I can barely breathe. There's no breath happening anywhere in here. I'm surprised I'm still standing, to be honest. Okay, so once you get used to that breathing, then you can stay nice and relaxed and still think about breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your mouth. So the last thing we're going to go through is our core activation. So now, speaking of buckets, we're going to talk about our pelvic floor muscles. These are the muscles that sit at the bottom here and hold everything in. So if your pelvic floor muscles are very loose as you get older, everything will just fall out, and you don't want that. So we need to work on those core muscles. We need to understand how to activate them, and we need to keep them activated forever. So what the method that I use is just a 30% contraction. So the core muscles are the ones that sit at the bottom that stop you from weeing if you need to hold it in. It's slightly different from men, but I'll come to that in a minute when we talk about the hips to belt muscles. So what we're going to start with is just imagining where these muscles are underneath. I want you to imagine that, I can't even reach, that they're a lift door. So when you tighten those muscles, imagine that your pelvic floor muscles are coming together like a lift door closing, and then you're drawing the lift all the way up to the 10th floor. So it's a really deep contraction coming all the way up inside of you. Are you doing that, Emma? Mm-hmm. So we're going to start just by doing it to 100%. So close those muscles and lift them all the way up. Giving myself contractions. If it helps you to pull a face, then that's absolutely fine. Does it help you, Emma, to pull a face? But then how will I know that you're doing it? Just trust you. All right, I'll trust her. So once you've done that a few times, what you might start to notice is that these muscles here, I keep going like this, but let's face it, no one can see what's going on with this belly. So just inside your hip bones here, the muscles in there should be contracting as well. So when you're pulling your pelvic floor muscles up, your hips to belt muscles are contracting as well. Can you feel that naturally happening? Mm-hmm. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to bring them up about halfway. So breathing in, closing those lift doors, bringing the lift up to about 50% contraction, the 5th floor, and then breathing out, letting it back down. So you can watch this video a few times and just practice those techniques, and in the end we want to get to a stage where we're only doing about a 30% contraction. So we've done 100%, which is really tight, and you wouldn't want to hold that for any prolonged period of time. We've done 50%, which again is quite tight, but now we're going to do 30. So again, I can't check this for you. You're going to need to just practice yourself and try and get that 30%. But once you've lifted your pelvic floor just a third of the way up, then you should feel comfortable enough to be able to hold that there. And you want to be able to hold that contraction forever, really, because once those muscles have contracted, it just provides a little bit of support around your lower back and your spine. So let's relax the pelvic floor muscles now. We're going to talk about the other core muscles, which are just inside your hips here. So you've got a band of muscle that goes from the bottom of the rib cage, it goes all the way down, inserts into the pubic bone and wraps all the way around like an internal corset. So this is another one of the muscles that we need to contract along with our pelvic floor muscles. So now you need to imagine that you've got a hipster belt on around here, and you're doing up a really tight pair of jeans, and that's how you're going to engage those muscles. So breathe in as tightly as you can, pull that belt in right around here, and then relax back out. So again, keep practicing that as tight as you possibly can. And what you should notice is that your pelvic floor muscles automatically lift at the same time. If you can't, it doesn't matter. So just keep practicing that as tight as you can. You feel that? Mm-hmm. Just in there. See, Emma's demonstrating with a flatter stomach than I've got where those muscles should be contracting. Okay, so now we're going to do a 50%. So breathing in, just 50%, tightening those muscles halfway and then relaxing it back down. So again, practice this as much as you can. And then we're going to get to the stage where we've just got a 30% contraction. So this time we're actually going to lift the pelvic floor at the same time as contracting the hips to belt muscles, just a third of the way. So breathing in, lift the pelvic floor, contract the hips to belt muscles 30%, drawing the shoulders down and feeling the tightness all around those internal muscles. And that's how to activate your core. And once that 30% is activated, your spine is now protected. So throughout the warm-up and throughout all of the exercises, when I say breathe in and engage those core muscles, that's what I'm talking about. Is that clear? Should we move on? Mm-hmm.